We are live.
Okay, awesome. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sarah Kelly, and I am the Executive Director of the Worcester Music Academy. And today we are talking about drum lessons. And with me today is our drum teacher, Phil Andrews. Obviously, he's the one with the drums in the picture. And my assistant, Marie, is also joining us today. She will be helping us behind the scenes, posting things on our chat feature, various links and things like that. So if you have questions at any point in time during our presentation today, feel free to just write them in the chat. And if it's something that we can answer while we're chatting, we'll answer them. Otherwise, we'll save your questions to the end and answer those for you. Just a quick background about who we are. We are obviously a music school in downtown Worcester. We are currently doing all of our programming online due to COVID, but we're having some great luck with our online programming. And we've been around for 10 years now. This is our 10th anniversary this year. And we offer private lessons and on a whole variety of instruments, not just drums, and some different classes for various age groups. Marie is going to post some links to the various parts of our website that detail all the information about these programs for you. So feel free to check those out at your convenience. As a special offer for those of you joining us today online, we are going to be offering a 50% discount on our annual registration fee, which is usually $50. So if you sign up, you as a result of watching this, you get the registration fee for $25, and you also get a 10% discount on your first month of lessons. So that offer is valid for 1 week from today, so through next Saturday. So if you'd like to take advantage of that, just fill in drum Q and A on the registration form where it's the promo code part of the form. All right. So in addition to this Q&A session, we have had several others. So if you are interested in other instruments, we've had one on piano, voice, guitar lessons, and then we had one that was just sort of a general Q&A session about our school in general. So you can find those on our Facebook page if you scroll through to learn more, or they're also on our YouTube page. And we will be having another session next week, next Saturday at 3 o'clock. That's all about string instruments. We'll have one of our violin and one of our cello teachers joining us. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Phil, and he is going to tell you all about drum lessons.
All right. Thank you very much. So as Sarah said, my name's Phil Andrews. I'm the drum and percussion teacher at Worcester Music Academy. Just to kind of talk about myself a little bit and just introduce what I do. I've been teaching drums and percussion for about 15 years. And I've been at Worcester Music Academy since 2012, so about 8 years or so. I have a bachelor's and master's in percussion. And I've had a lot of experiences performing in a lot of different types of groups. For example, classical percussion in timpani and classical percussion and timpani for orchestras, drum set and percussion for musicals. I play the steel drums, like during the summer, I'm out running around playing steel drums for different stuff. Play regularly for a Jimmy Buffett tribute group. I play steel drums for my own group where we do like weddings and public concerts and parties and events and stuff like that. So I try to keep pretty busy. Obviously right now it's not so busy, so I'm doing more teaching than performing, but normally I would be doing both. And this is important as well. I teach all different percussion instruments. So this presentation is going to be mainly about traditional drum kit, but I do teach all types of percussion. Concert percussion, mallet percussion, timpani, and even steel drums. So it's useful not only for a beginner drummer, but if you're somebody who's in a school band or something like that, and you want to get into the honors band, or you're auditioning for Allstate or something like that, that can be useful as well. So I'm well versed in all kinds of different percussion and mallet percussion and drum set as well. All that stuff is in my wheelhouse. So you might ask, why drums? So in my opinion, drums are a lot of fun to play, and they can be a very rewarding experience. So I have a drum set up right here. I'll probably play a little bit at some point here. But in my opinion, it allows for endless creativity. So there's many different sounds, techniques, styles, different things to explore. The potential for creativity on drum set is almost immediate. So for example, let's say I'm starting out on a drum set. I've never hit a drum before in my life. You can sit here and you can hit snare drum, tom, medium tom, low tom, bass drum. That's your first beat right there. You know, you can have fun just with that, just doing that. Up a little bit, double it. You know, so there's this kind of almost immediate creativity that you can experience on the drum set, which I don't know is necessarily the case with a lot of other instruments. So it doesn't require a lot to kind of get up and running and getting all the different sounds going. Even now, like I find after playing drums for, I don't know, 20 years, I can sit down to the drum set even now and just play a groove for a while. And before I know it, I've invented a new groove or a foot pattern or a hi-hat or a drum fill. There's just so many different sounds on a drum set and possibilities. And it's just a great outlet for that kind of creativity. So for example, I could just kind of be grooving along. Like right there, that was a drum fill. I don't know if I've ever done that drum fill before. So, you know, even now I sit down and I think of different things that you would think you'd kind of reach a limit and come up with all the things at a certain point, but actually no, there's endless creativity. All right. So if you're somebody who's into rhythms and different sounds and timbres on an instrument as opposed to tonality and melody, drums is perfect for you. Obviously, there's not really the melody in like the traditional sense like you would have on a violin or something like that, but you have different sounds. So to kind of give a little story, when I was a kid, I would always get all the pots and pans out of my parents' cupboard, and I'd just start banging them together like crash cymbals. I did that as a kid. Like that's why I play the drums. So I've always been interested in like different little sounds that you can do. I always end up playing drums with my hands on different desks at school and that sort of thing. It would annoy all my teachers. So if you're the kind of person like me that does that, then drums would be perfect for you. The other thing is it's very commonly used instrument in various performing groups, bands, or other performing groups are always in need of a good drummer or percussionist. So there tends to be a lot of opportunities to play with other people. A good drummer can really make a band sound better. So a good example of that would be look at a band like the Beatles. Would they have been as popular with an average drummer? I don't think so. So having a good drummer in a group that really knows how to play in the pocket and musically is something that's important to any band or musical group. So taking lessons on drum set would really help with that. Things that you can get, just to kind of go through a list of, you know, some things that I believe you get from taking lessons. You improve coordination, improve concentration, focus, timing. You learn persistence and perseverance. It, like I said, provides an outlet for creativity. It just makes you feel good about yourself. Let's say you put some work into something and you finally get it. You know, it's something hard. You work at it. You finally get through it. You see that you see yourself getting better and better, and you feel good about yourself because of that. And it also teaches discipline, you know, from practicing and putting in the time and working on different grooves or musical settings or whatever. But most importantly, it's just fun. I think it's fun and it brings joy. It's fun to hit the drums. and joy is something we all need a lot of right now. So let's say you have decided that you would like to play the drums. You might ask, what do I need? What do I need to have for lessons? So you need to have a drum set for one thing. You can kind of get away on a drum pad for a little while, but I always try to get people up and running on a real drum set. For Zoom lessons, especially since we're all online, it is important that the student has their own setup. So that's very important. It's a good idea to get a decent setup for yourself. So there are several good options for an entry level drum set. They're usually around $400. An acoustic is generally the best option because it's the real thing and it feels like the real thing. Electronic is good as well and can be very useful if you want to keep the volume down. So this one, I happen to have an electronic one because I need to keep the volume, exactly that reason. I need to keep the volume down. So I can turn this one up and down. Right? Be as loud or soft as you want. You can do it through your headphones. Doesn't make a ton of noise if that's what you're worried about. So yeah, electronic ones can be very useful. So either one is a totally viable option and would work well for lessons. So a good electronic inexpensive option would be, and this is just a suggestion, it's the Alesis Nitro Mesh 8-piece kit. And if you do get an electronic kit, make sure you get one that has a real drum trigger here. Some of them just have, here, let me see. We won't do that. Some of them just have like a little pedal that you push and it doesn't actually have a mallet that hits anything. It's just a pedal and that's what makes the noise. I don't like that. I'd rather just have, I think it's better to have an actual mallet hitting an actual trigger for that. So keep that in mind. For an acoustic drum set, I think a good inexpensive option, and I've had a couple students get this one, the Ludwig Backbeat complete 5-piece drum set with hardware and cymbals. So if you're going to get a new drum set that is for a beginner that has like kind of this all-inclusive stuff, you want to make sure you get one that has all of the hardware and cymbals as well. Usually when you buy an acoustic drum set, it does not come with hardware and cymbals. So just keep that in mind. Make sure it says in the description that it comes with hardware and cymbals. And you may also be able to find one on Facebook or Craigslist, and sometimes there's some good deals out there. You never know. So just to kind of recap the drum set, if you're buying a drum set, make sure you have a snare drum and stand, bass drum and foot pedal, 2 or 3 toms, crash cymbal and stands, hi-hat cymbals and stand, and a drum throne or stool. If you get all those things, you'll be good to go.
And just so everybody knows, we are posting links to both of these drum sets that Phil has mentioned in the chat feature, so you can go directly to those links if you want to check them out.
Awesome. So for lessons, you're going to need a drum set, you need drumsticks. I would recommend Vic Firth SD1. I don't think I gave a link for that, but anyway, a drum practice pad is always good to have as well. It doesn't make a lot of noise, and you can just a piece of rubber that you can practice rudiments and stuff on if you like. A lesson notebook, and a book called Breaking It Down by Kevin White. So this is a book that starts with book 1 and progresses through book 4. I'll hold it up here. Looks like this. And it just goes through, I really like this book. It goes through like step by step, kind of breaks things down the way that I like it, and just progresses beginner, novice, intermediate, expert, you know. All right. And okay, so the last thing with lessons, obviously, if you want to just work on snare drum, like let's say you're a percussionist in school band or you're doing an audition for districts or all state, you would just need the drum. You wouldn't need a full drum set. So I do get students like that as well who play snare drum and bells. Like, you might be doing school band and you'll get snare drum and bells in a kit and you'll want to work on that. Totally fine as well. So let's say you have everything, got all your stuff. What do you need to do to set up for online lessons? You need a laptop, smartphone, or a tablet with a camera. Try to position the camera of the device so you can see the student and his drums. I like to have it behind me and raised up, kind of like I have it. So normally I'd be sitting like this at the drum set, and I have it kind of off like there. And that way you can see everything, right? You can see all my drums here, hi-hat, what my foot's doing. So you have a pretty good view, but whatever works for you in your setting is fine. And it's also something after the first lesson, we can kind of tweak it and get things positioned the way we want it if something's not working or whatever. So it doesn't need to be perfect. A bigger screen, what I found is a bigger screen does help because it's easier for the student to see me. So if you have a laptop, that may be preferable than to just having a little tiny smartphone where you really can't see much. But again, we can work with whatever you have. One thing you may notice is I'm wearing headphones. I find that headphones work really well because I can communicate much easier with headphones to the student. I was finding for the longest time I wasn't using headphones and kids would just keep playing, especially if they have an acoustic drum set. I'd be like waving and trying to get their attention and they just keep going and playing and making the same mistakes. So it just works. I believe it works much better to have the headphones for drums. For a younger student especially, I would recommend having a parent present, at least for the first few lessons, but really any age kid, probably kind of just being present at least a little bit would be a good idea, at least to make sure that the Zoom call is going through and everything. But just to get him or her going and figure out any logistical problems would be a good idea. I like to use Google Meets. So I'll typically send you a Google Meets link to use for every drum lesson. Whenever you sign up, I'll send you the Google link, room, whatever you call it, the Google link that we'll use for every lesson in the future. So you just, whatever the time is of your lesson, you just click on that link and I'll be there and we'll have the lesson. And then lastly, I have organized kind of an online weekly assignment notebook through Google Drive. So I have shared Google documents for every single one of my students that I will write in, even in real time, like during the lesson, you can pull it up and see it. So you can know what you're supposed to be practicing for each week. So I can even post PDF files and a link right to this notebook page. So you can actually just open the page and just click the link and get in. I might even keep doing this when we go back to in person because it's really convenient. Okay. So we got all that out of the way. How does a drum, I wanted to kind of talk about how a typical drum lesson would go. So we're talking about a beginner. Let's say you're just signed up and you're a beginner and this is your first lesson. I'm just kind of like sit down and go through what we would normally do. So first thing I do is I'd show you how to hold the drumsticks. So I'd say, all right, there's the drumsticks that I usually recommend. There's like a little American flag on there. So I say, put your thumb on that and your index finger across from it so that you're holding it like that. And then you just bring your fingers around your, what are we called, support fingers, holding it. But this is where it all happens. Kind of holds like, you hold it like this. And then I'll say, all right, go to the snare drum, which is this one right in front of me, and just go down and up. And I'll have them just play like with the right hand for a while. And then I'll have them play with the left hand for a while. and then I'll have them alternate back and forth. And then once they do that for a little while, I'll say, all right, now move around, hit some different drums. So I'll have them kind of mess around on the drum set a little bit. So then what I'll do is I'll play a rhythm on my drum. Let's say sometimes I'll do like, and then I'll have them play it, and they'll do it on their end. And then I'll do a harder rhythm, like, and then they'll do it again. And we'll kind of keep trading back and forth on this kind of thing, just to establish some kind of little bit of rhythm. And it's just kind of fun to just take turns playing different things. So once they kind of get going with that, I'll open up my book and we'll go into the first page, which is all about just basic quarter notes and quarter note rests. And I'll usually talk about, all right, well, now we're going to learn how to count to 4. One thing you learn as a drummer is how to count to 4 a lot. So you count to 4 in a lot of different ways and divide it up in different ways. So in order to make a rhythm of any kind, you have to have sound, and also you have to have not sound, right? You have to have the rest. So we talk about rests. So I might give them something that says quarter notes on beats 1 and 2, rest on 3, quarter note on 4. So it would be basically 1, 2, rest, 4. 1, 2, rest, 4. 1, 2, rest, 4. And then we'll do another one. Maybe it's a rest on beat 2 this time, right? We go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. And then I'd also have them try that on different drums. So you might do it on the bass drum, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. The first lesson, that's usually where we kind of leave it. The first lesson is we don't go crazy with too much stuff all at once. But soon after that, I like to get people playing a drum set groove that they would recognize like pretty early on. So what we would work towards is something like this. And this is just a basic 4 pattern on the drum set. So that's kind of the goal for the first couple lessons or so, is to get to the point where you can play that. And then once you can do that, you can do something like this. You can kind of experiment with different grooves. And this is, again, I have a book that lays this all out, and we work through it at a pace that is very doable for most people. So that's the first lesson. So then if we're talking about just a regular drum lesson with people who have taken lessons for a period of time, like a year, something like that, a regular lesson, what I would do is I would do a warm-up for about 5 to 10 minutes or so. And it depends on the individual too, like what they're looking to do and how experienced they are and that sort of thing. But typically I will have the student kind of do what are called stick control exercises. And stick control exercises are typically just eighth notes with different rights and lefts. So for example, one might be like right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. And I'll have them repeat that a bunch of times. Like the thing about drums as well is it can be fairly repetitive, but it's good to establish that focus when you warm up. So I'd have them do that like 8 times in a row, just sitting here like right, left, right, right. For a young kid, obviously they might only be able to do it a couple of times, and so it depends on the age as well. So okay, sorry, I'm reading off of something, just trying to. So this is where we can really work on their hands, and they can think about how they're hitting the drum. And I can also have them learn how to use a metronome right here. A metronome would be like a click track. There's one, you know. Okay, so once we get them all warmed up, get the hands moving back and forth, get the brain focused. The next thing we do is we work on rhythm and coordination. So this is where I would get out the book. This would be where I'd use the book. This varies generally depending on the student's age and goals. But for a beginner, it's going to be all about learning the basic fundamentals of rhythm and note reading on the snare drum. So start on snare drum, work outward. So we don't just jump into everything all at once. We start on one drum, learn rhythms, and then apply that. So apply those fundamentals to the drum set. So everything from basic quarter notes, eighth notes, double stroke rolls, different rudiments, paradiddles, flams, drags. I don't want to get into too much details, but playing grooves and drum fills on a drum set. This is where we'd really dig into like all the nitty gritty stuff. I may sometimes give the student a written out drum solo to practice. If we have a recital, sometimes we do recitals at Worcester Music Academy. So I might give them a solo or a duet, depending on if we're in person. I love duets when we're in person. We'd work on expanding the student's ability to play and understand more complex rhythms. So basically, we're just working out of the book to try to improve their rhythmic comprehension. One thing that's important about that is, let's say we're working on a groove. For example, this one I was just talking about, right? We're not going to just jump right in with everything. I'm going to have them work on just the hands only. So that'd be like this, without the bass drum. And then I'd have them do hi-hat and bass drum, which would be this. And then I'd have them do the third perspective, which would be bass drum and snare drum. And then, only then, we would add in the hi-hat and try to do all three. Generally, most people are okay with two things. They're great with one thing. They're okay with two things. When you add that third thing, you know, that's what we have to work at. So that's the coordination challenge. So I always work slowly, gradually building it up. I break it down to begin with and then build it up slowly. And most people get this within the first couple lessons. That particular groove I was playing, I mean. So. The third thing I would do in a lesson, after we've warmed up, after we worked out of the book for a little while, worked on some rhythmic challenges and coordination challenges, I'd like to do what I call a listen and play. So I'd often do this towards the end of the lesson. Basically what it means is we listen to a song and we try to figure out the beat that goes with it. So for example, we might listen to Beat It by Michael Jackson. And then I have them listen through it. And at the end of it, I'll say, okay, what do you hear? How do you play that groove? And they might know it, they might not, but basically it's. And then they add in the hi-hat. So depending on the song, I'm not going to give them anything that's like out of their reach either. It's going to be something that they can handle. But yeah, that just like it builds their ability to listen. You know, it's important to be able to listen as well as read music and understand it all. So I like to do that with people, and it's just fun. I think just play along with something. I have a good way of plugging in my phone and playing music through the Zoom call. It's not perfect, but it does work, and they can play along, and we can kind of play along together with a song. So I find this is a good way to end the lesson because it's a lot of fun and it's just it's good to end on a fun note. And then after that, I'll review what we did. I'll write in the little online notebook. So I'll review what we worked on, say what they should practice for the next week. The idea being the next lesson, I will then ask the student to play the things that were assigned. And if they practice, they will improve, which is leads me to another subject of practice. I would suggest practicing for about a half hour a day would be preferable, but so, and a little bit every day is much better than practicing like 2 hours like the day before or something like that. I'd really rather you spend, even if it's just like 15 minutes a day, it's better than spending 2 hours the day before, and definitely better than none at all. So one little quote that I tell my students is don't practice until you can play it right, but practice until you can play. I said it wrong. Let me start over. Don't practice until you can play it right. Practice until you can't play it wrong. So I think that's an important, that kind of spells out my philosophy on practicing, I think. I certainly am, I'm an easygoing guy. Like, I'm not going to make you feel bad if you haven't practiced or whatever, but it's definitely important that you practice a little bit every day. And if the only time you pick up your drumsticks is for the lesson, then you're not really going to make progress, So definitely practice 20 to 30 minutes a day. And yeah, I think that was about all I have in terms of my little presentation here.
Awesome. Well, that was super informative. And I'll just throw in on the practicing front that a couple things. So, if you don't have 20 or 30 minutes in a row, split it up. If you've got a 5 minutes here in between if you're, in school and you have a break between your Zoom calls, fit in 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here, do it over lunch, do it over when you're breaking up your homework. So, it doesn't have to be cumulative in one session, but a little bit each time a day, like Phil said, is definitely the way to go. And the other thing is, Phil touched on how it's especially for the younger students or just as a very beginner, having a parent or guardian around to help out. Not only is that important just for any technology issues that may come up in the lesson, but you'll also learn what your child is supposed to be doing in their lessons, what they're supposed to be practicing. And if you're maybe watching along, you can see, oh, are they holding their drumsticks the right way? And that you could help them practice. I do get a lot of people, parents in particular, who come to me and say, I don't know what to do. My child won't practice. And I don't want to nag on them to practice. This should be fun. But I often tell people, well, first of all, talk to your student's teacher because he or she may have helpful hints about how to practice. Maybe it's getting a reward chart in place, a sticker chart, or whatever other creative methods that might work to help encourage practicing. But you have to understand that taking lessons is a commitment, not only for students but for the parents as well. And if you want to see progress, you do have to practice. And so that at the beginning you might have to kind of encourage your child to practice. But I think once the child sees the progress and that they can do something and have mastered that skill and they get to go on to that next thing, it becomes that much more rewarding and they become that much more excited about practicing. So don't give up, just keep encouraging them, and I think it will really help. So that's my 2 cents on practicing. Phil, so I know with different instruments, there's different age ranges that are possible for lessons. What would you say is, typically the youngest you would work with, through the oldest?
Yeah. So there's no oldest, anyone, but I would say the youngest I typically say like anything younger than 6. It's kind of try it out and see. sort of situation. But yeah, I would say six and above typically is what I would be comfortable with as
Mm-hmm.
far as teaching.
Great. And just so people know that we do offer a free 30-minute trial lesson. So, especially if the child is on the younger side, since, all kids kind of mature at different levels, and they may or may not be ready at 6 to start lessons. Or even if you're 12 or 15 or an adult and you want to take lessons, but you're not sure you're ready to commit to lessons, we offer that free trial lesson. So that way you can try it out before you sign up. We just require a credit card to hold the lesson. We don't charge it unless you don't show up. But that is always a great thing to take advantage of, just so you can really feel comfortable with going forward.
Yeah, with one thing with younger kids as well is I do have kind of a separate like curriculum for somebody under the age of like someone around 6 or something like that. I'll do more games, and um it's less about necessarily like getting them to be like the best drummer. It's more about the experience of just keeping them interested in music and like having them have a good time. And um I might do something like, if you're happy and you know it, hit the snare drum or something like that. Happy and you know it, you know. So there's all kinds of different games. There's also like repeat after me. I'll try and do a little rhythm and I'll have them try to repeat it back. Simon Says is a popular little game that I can do on drums. So there's like a lot of different ways that I can make it accessible for someone who's younger.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, sometimes if they're really young, they might just not have the ability to focus for too long. We could do 20-minute lessons. They're yeah. So there's definitely things that we can do, and we can certainly try it out. But yeah,
Absolutely. And, like I'd mentioned, it's sort of a family affair when it comes to lessons, especially for younger students. Marie's going to post a link to, if she hasn't already, to our website that has a link about our policies. So, how we operate if, there's a cancellation or you're sick or something like that. But it also at the bottom of that same page talks about the expectations, what's expected from a student, showing up in time for your lesson, things like that, to expectations on the part of the parent or the guardian. So you'll definitely want to check that out, just so you fully understand like what you're getting into before you sign up. And like Phil said, I think all the teachers, regardless of the instrument, at our school are really nice. We love what we do, and we want to make this a fun, enjoyable experience for you. We want to share our passion with you. And if you don't practice one week, or you've had a bad day, or whatever happens, none of us are going to get mad at you or be upset with you. We'll just work with you and use it as a practice session together. But we always encourage you to chat with us, whether it's the student talking directly to their teacher if they have any issues, if they don't understand something. We always encourage you to just talk directly with your teacher. So we can't help you if we don't understand what you don't understand and don't know. So always communicate. Parents, communicate as well. You know your child better than anybody else. And so if there's something you have learned about how they learn best or anything like that, sharing that with us is always helpful, because this isn't a one size fits all sort of activity. We cater everything to each individual student so that we can make this the best for each person. Marie, did you have any other questions that have come through for us?
No questions have come through, but I'll put your email in the comments so that way anyone who has questions later on can send you an email, get in touch with us, and we can always answer them then too.
Absolutely. Thank you. So we'll also put a link to our registration page. So if after today you're all excited and you want to sign up for drum lessons, just click on that registration link that we'll be posting. And all you do is fill it out. Once I get that, I will contact you. We will finalize all the details, set up a lesson day, take care of the payment, And after you're all confirmed, Phil will reach out to you, like you said, give you the Google Meetup information. And it's very easy. We try to make this as easy as possible. Obviously, when we're back in person, you don't have to worry about an online link or anything like that. Although I think online lessons are here to stay in one form or another, regardless when we do return to normal. So again, just to reiterate, our special offer for today is 50% off of our annual registration fee, so $25 instead of $50, and 10% off your first month of lessons with us. That's valid for 1 week through today, so next Saturday. You can also find us online. Obviously, if you're watching us here today, you are on Facebook. If you haven't liked or followed our page, we encourage you to do so. We're constantly posting stuff here. But we also have an Instagram page and a YouTube channel. We're always posting videos of students and teachers and fun things like that. And one other thing we forgot to touch on, Phil, is that, in the past we've had a steel drum band. So, there are ensemble opportunities when it's not, a pandemic. But, something we can always look forward to if you're looking to do something fun like that. And again, Marie said she's going to put my contact information. Email is the best way to contact me, but we are checking voicemails every single day. So feel free to leave a voicemail for us as well. Or you can send us a private message here on Facebook, and I will get back to you as well. So I think that might be it. Phil, was there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, just about the steel drum thing real quick. There's a little beginner steel drum that you can get that's really great for practically any age group as well. So yeah, drum set, any percussion, steel drum. Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today, and we hope to hear from you soon. Have a great weekend.
Bye.